September. Can you believe it's September 2nd, Wednesday night here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast as we're coming off of a live episode of AEW Dynamite, a go-home episode of AEW Dynamite with their big show All Out coming up this weekend. We've got a great panel here, two awesome professional wrestlers. One retired and doing his thing in the office and politics, Mr. Matt Morgan. Matt, how are you?
What's up, guys?
And the other very much active now, just coming off of a weekend in Texas where he had some good matches. He is the real Sam Adonis. Sam, what's up?
Not a whole lot. Thank you for having me once again.
Sam, you hear how his wrestler speak he tries to use by calling it a loop?
yeah. Kayfabe.
Well, guys, tonight's Dynamite, go home, a lot to unpack, so let's not waste any time. Just a reminder to everybody, we had a live chat. Your super chats are encouraged. If you give some super chats money, we will send the money right to Raj Giri, and we will highlight your comment and talk about it. So we kick off with tag team action between the Best Friends up against Santana and Ortiz. This thing starts with it not even making it to the ring, just chaos all over. In the first 5 minutes, the match hasn't even started, and commentary even pointing out like there's just like, can somebody get control of this? What's going on? Finally, after about 5 minutes in, they get into the match. It is an entertaining match, back and forth, some fun tag team sequences. Unfortunately, I will say, at least for me, it came to a screeching halt as they tried to do a false finish of Trent pinning Ortiz, and then it's supposed to be 1-2. Santana puts Ortiz's hand on the mat. I don't know who missed what cue, but the referee actually hits the count of 3. Then the hand goes on the rope. So null and void that. And then we get to the finish after Santana grabs a steel baton, smacks Trent's back with it, and then the street sweeper by Santana and Ortiz, and they get the victory over Trent. So, Matt, overall opinion on this opening match here?
I didn't care for it, and nothing. And I don't mean anything about the work either. I mean the storyline. Okay, I want you to remember, and everyone at home watching this to remember, this story derives around them messing with what's his name's mom and her minivan.
Trent's mom, yeah.
I missed that, by the way.
Count your blessings, dude, because it'd be one of those moments that you wish one of your friends that don't watch wrestling walk in the room and catch you watching wrestling. It's one of those bad things, in my opinion. Like, so therefore, I listen. I could shut my mind off and just watch great athleticism in the ring and be entertained by it. Sometimes I could, but this one wasn't one of them. But for the record, Proud and Powerful needed a victory tonight. They did get it, but if I could have fast forwarded this, I would have.
Sam?
It was just different to me. I haven't seen Proud and Powerful yet. I haven't seen them wrestle since I started watching this with you guys. Good energy. Those guys are cool. They're very believable. I think, honestly, I don't know how good they are on the mic, but I could see them being like, in that Eddie Kingston crew just because they have that same New York badass vibe to them. The best friends, both of those guys are phenomenal at everything they do. They kind of just started off hot, that thing going through the chairs that Chuck Taylor got his butt, tossed through 18 chairs. That was just insane. I mean, it's nuts that these guys can do that. I don't like getting thrown through chairs. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but live TV on a Tuesday night in front of a big audience, I guess you got to pull out the stop. So for me, it was just fun, fast, exciting action to start the show, and I am out of the loop on the storyline, so I can't say much more than that.
Well, and Sam, I could see that. I think if you are a first time or a new viewer, that's what you would take away in terms of the high points of just the guys in the ring, what they're doing. But I like Matt, I've been following this for weeks, and I don't pop for the comedy that some perceive as comedy of the guys showing up in the minivan and the guy's minivan's getting trashed, and that's what we're all.
Are you gonna buy that dude's T-shirt? Like, seriously, right. The guy talks about his mom that just drove him to the arena in a minivan. Like, I don't know. maybe not everybody's supposed to have a T-shirt that guys are supposed to want to go buy. I don't know.
But it relates to wrestling fans. I think we all can relate to sometimes being driven by our mom somewhere. So maybe that endears them.
As an adult.
Well, we do know from the key demos that apparently AEW has the younger fan base, so maybe they are the ones that are still getting hitching a ride with mom.
Touche.
All right. So after that, we get a backstage with MJF. Of course, this is building to later in the night when his lawyer is going to have a match. Mark Sterling is going to have a match against John Moxley. So they are.
Get it right. It's Silver Balls, Mark Sterling.
Silver Balls, Mark Sterling.
Silver Balls.
Thank you.
I'm out of the loop on that as well, Matt. Thank you.
That is a Zack Ryder wrestling figure figure podcast
Okay,
reference.
yeah.
He's from that podcast. But go ahead, say what happens. I'm sorry, Justin.
Yeah, basically, no, they're just there. He's locked himself in a room. Wardlow kicks the door down, and they begin to drag him out and basically keeping him hostage that he is going to the ring. And he can either go to the ring and face Moxley, or he can, I think they said, go through a wood chipper.
Yeah, he's like, which monster do you want? Now, so MJF got very intense in this, so that was good. But it only works because you have big-ass Wardlow sitting there in the back just looking like a monster, ready to just ingest him.
Sure.
Wardlow plays this part really well.
He should. He did it for about 4 years in Pittsburgh here. He's got practice on it.
You taught him. You taught him everything you know, didn't you, Justin?
Oh, yeah. Like, get me taking that credit. Give me that soundbite. All right, so that's going to be your main event later tonight. Next up, another crazy explosion of talent here, but I enjoyed this one much more than I did the opening match here. This is the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express teaming up against Private Party and SCU. One of the underlying themes here is the Young Bucks, very intense, very serious. They, of course, are dealing with personal turmoil. They had to kick their friend Hangman Page out of the Elite last week, and so they're in a serious mode. They're not really trusting Jurassic Express or wanting to get Jurassic Express into it, so they're just tagging themselves. You can see the Jurassic Express not reacting well to this. Again, up against Private Party and SCU, I got to say this real quick. Frankie Kazarian looked awesome tonight.
He did.
And I don't know if it's maybe I was just paying attention more tonight, but I mean, just his physical look and the things that he was doing, man, he was going 100 miles per hour, looking just like prime of his career. So shout out to him. This one again, all kinds of stuff and shenanigans going on. Eventually, they did build a Luchasaurus not coming in for quite a while. They really built to a hot tag with him. Yeah. But in the end, it would be the Young Bucks who would hit the BTE trigger and get the victory. And they just flat out put their hands up, walked to the stage, and left. So, Matt, I know you're big fans of the Bucks and the being the Elite stuff. What'd you think of this?
This was good. This is real good. I still don't understand why they'd have hesitation to trust Jurassic Express all of a sudden. They're not the ones that were acting dicky to them. It's their own former stablemate. You know what I mean? Hangman Page who did that, right? So, but the match itself was incredibly good. I liked seeing the serious side of the Bucks as well. Obviously, they always get called out for not taking it serious enough and whatever have you. Even though I'm entertained by every freaking match they're in, but this was another one. This was good, and you said about Kazarian is on point. He grew his hair back in. He's in better shape physically, and he had a hell of a cutter. If you can suspend your disbelief enough to think, Sam, that if your hands are on the ropes and you're outside just minding your own business, that some dude can slingshot you into the ring over the top rope to eat a cutter.
They can.
Awesome. Then awesome.
It's happened to me 40 times this week.
Don't put your hands on the ropes.
There you go. I still haven't learned my lesson.
It looked awesome. I suspended my disbelief because I thought it was I couldn't do it. I thought it was sweet. But Jungle Boy, great heat taker, great selling. He's improving really quickly. And that kid's gonna be a big star. He's so young, right? Isn't he like
early 20s?
Early 20s? Yeah, he's going to be good. But this was a good match. I enjoyed it a lot.
Sam, consider yourself lucky. The veteran Matt Morgan just gave you some sound advice. Don't put your hands on the ropes.
I'm going to start next match. I'm never doing it again. I enjoyed this match as well. This one was really fun because the pace they kept was just absurd. And it was nice because there was no dead space at all. It was 8 guys. And, everybody could come in and show what they got. Everybody was featured pretty well. Yeah. It was cool just seeing. I mean, the athleticism in that match alone was just ridiculous, and the creativity. That's another thing that's cool. I've seen a lot of watching some of this AEW, just innovation and things, combinations and things that you wouldn't even think of unless you really put some effort into it. So that was awesome on some of their parts. I really like watching the Bucks right now. They've developed so much. They used to be known as just moves guys and just doing cool things. Now they've developed so much more into personalities. They're really cool and just they're very interesting to watch. But as the personal 12-year-old in me still absolutely loves and adores Christopher Daniels. He's just one of the best performers of all time, I think. He
had a good outing tonight, too.
So well-rounded. Everything he does looks beautiful and believable, but also more than that, his character work. He's just – I think it's probably just because at this point, this many years in, Christopher Daniels is Christopher Daniels. He's not acting. He's not portraying anything. He is that guy. It was just nice to see him at such a high pace, high level once again, and I mean, it was fun all around.
Yeah, obviously this is the go home all outs this Saturday, which I mean I think that's their WrestleMania. That's what this promotion's been built on, and based upon what the main event is and the records going into it, it seems as that. But Matt, I know you got to be with me. I would have thought for sure going to all out, you have the Young Bucks and you have FTR in the same company, that would be your all out, your WrestleMania match, and that's not what it's going to be.
For sure. I don't know what the WrestleMania is at this company just yet, right? But if you're saying that that's a WrestleMania, then yes, no question that you would think that's the big money tag match. But
See,
I don't know.
I would almost, again, I don't know how many listeners are Japanese fans, but I kind of see where they're going with this, because Kenny and Adam are the two of the biggest single stars. So I almost feel like the whole Japanese mentality is a lot of time a tag team match with 4 single stars is going to be bigger than any singles match or any tag team match. So I kind of get that. I get that in a way that, FTR is so good on top of their game. Again, I don't know why they choose one over the other, but I definitely still see this as a pretty damn big match.
So what has to happen with this storyline with the Bucks is FTR needs they need to win the tag title. So it's either going to come through beating Hangman and Kenny, or it's going to come through actually beating the Bucks in that big match.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So like, you can't fast forward that, Justin. You got to let this play out.
That's true. I guess it would be a bigger match if FTR has got the titles and the Young Bucks who have not, having the Young Bucks go after them. It might also be maybe they're putting the delay on it because they want to do it when they can sell more tickets. I mean, I know they're doing the very small 10% capacity, but that's not a real. That's not the gate that you want for
that kind of match. Yeah.
For that. Real quick, just a note from one of our fans here. Andrew Faulkner said, "Sam, I really enjoyed your interview on Talk is Jericho." Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, Sam is a guest on the latest episode of Talk is Jericho.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, Andrew. It's pretty good for a lot of people that don't know anything about me. It's kind of part of my life voyage and story. So thank you for checking it out.
Awesome stuff there. All right, so moving on. Next up in AEW, we got a backstage with Jake Hager who goes into Orange Cassidy's dressing room. This is a small detail if you caught it. You always have like the wrestler's name or whatever on the door. There's just a picture of an orange on the outside of the door for his.
I saw that
for his dressing room. But he comes in and says that Jericho wants him at ringside for Jericho's match tonight against Joey Janela. That's that. So Cassidy's seen again going through a book bag. So a little foreshadowing there. We get a backstage. Tully Blanchard with FTR talking about how this Saturday is going to be them winning the titles.
I love that promo, by the way.
Yeah,
wasn't it good?
A little detail that I love about the Revival is that they're just such big fans of the way it was. Like myself, the '80s fans. Dax actually mentioned, how much the match is worth, how much the money, how much more money they will win, why they win the match. Just little details like that are so far gone in pro wrestling. And let's say a new wrestler, a new fan is 12, 13 years old, only knows what he's seen between WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor, whatever. And, even if you just spark the imagination, says, "Hey, Dad, do they really get paid that much more when they win?" It creates drama. It creates everything. God, I love those guys so much.
Gives you more reason to invest in them, especially if you're a younger fan, like you said. Dad's never really heard that kind of talk in a promo because they're 12 years old and wrestling hasn't really been doing those kind of promos.
I love it.
But yeah, it was really good, real good, strong promo. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam, that's a great point. That's a phrase that is spoken less and less is, the winner's purse and why are you in here for it? So I think that is a great call by you, and it's fitting that it would come from them, old school guys.
When WCW hit around the Russo time, I would say, that's when they started talking about the Push brother. Even the announcers started eventually talking about. So like now as wrestling fans in that era, I would say as I'd say WCW collapsed around that time-ish, going to WWE now, right? That's when they started more or less as fans and internet as well, knowing behind the scenes, all that crap as well, coupled in with this is about, well, shit, he just won this tag team title. That means he's going to get a push. I mean, first the tag championships, maybe the heavyweight championship, because he's just won 6 matches in a row. Instead of, wow, he's getting rich. This dude's making tons of money. He just got done saying that he's going to make X amount of dollars if he wins tonight, which I think is way more an emotional investment. I just do, because it makes it like real sports.
I think at the end of the day, there's so many little nuances like that are just lost. But there's no reason why they were lost. And to me, just watching this kind of cold tonight, seeing it straight up, so many of these things can come back, and the future is in the past.
Sam, do you realize the epiphany we just had? Give me 1 second on Terry Allen Jr. real quick, Justin. Mm-hmm. Do you realize the epiphany we just collectively had on this show together, Sam? It was the Dr. Tom Pritchard. I remember my rookie year going, "What's old is new again." I'm like, "No, the bear hug's pretty corny, Dr. Tom. I really don't want to do it. Don't make me do it." But it's true.
Oh yes, oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm just glad we got to mention the good Dr. Tom Pritchard here on this podcast tonight. I actually got to go out to breakfast with him about a month ago. So he's running a wrestling school in Knoxville. So if anybody in the South wants to be a pro wrestler, go to the Glenn Jacobs and Dr. Tom Pritchard Wrestling School, because he's a damn good coach.
One of the best one. He trained everyone, every major star, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Didn't he train The Rock? Wasn't that?
Oh,
him?
yes.
Yeah.
Terry Allen Jr., the $2 super chat. He says, "Sam, are your personalities exact as your brother?" I don't know if he means your wrestling personality.
Absolutely not. I'm much more friendly and I'm nicer to people. So
I just remember working for your dad's show, or your dad's company at a couple times, and we'd go out and get something to eat at the club, not nightclub. What was it? It was a restaurant. It was like a Bennigan / restaurant / bar that was there, and your brother would just keep replaying. God dang it! What was the Evolution theme song that just came out? He made the guy keep playing it. But for the record, that's a badass song.
It's a great song, yeah. And he's always been a big Motorhead fan, so that stands to reason.
Fun shows. I met Zayma Iron as a kid. Zayma Iron must have been felt like he was 10 years old. He was so young. Oh my God.
That's what's funny, seeing him on NXT now. Literally, he was one of my best friends as a kid. We were, growing up, we were the only two kids within 100 miles of Pittsburgh that knew anything about Mexican wrestling. We're watching these tapes. Little did we know we'd be wrestling in Arena, Mexico 10 years later. So
that's awesome. That's
life is funny.
It is.
That's Joaquin Wild. See what I did there?
Boom. Yep.
All right, so we go from the backstage of FTR and that promo to we get Tony Schiavone bringing out Kenny Omega, and this starts with obviously talking about where are things at with Omega and Page, and obviously they're not on the same page right now. Get it? Trying to top Sam, couldn't do it. Anyway, so Omega is still having confidence that he and Page will be able to take on FTR. Then FTR starts to make their way out to the ring with a cooler. They basically bring out, they want to cheers Omega. They bring out some nice cold chocolate milk, some 2%. And basically things start to pick up here as name calling gets thrown around. FTR, what is it? FTR keeps bad talking Page. Page then comes out. Page looks like, again, he's been on a week-long bender. And then things start to get intense between Page and Omega. Eventually FTR leaves. Page then goes to pick up his title belt and hand to Omega. Omega's out of the ring, not standing there. So again, more visual, just reinforcement here that these two guys not with it with each other. So I got to think FTR gets the titles this Saturday, right, Matt?
Yes, I hope.
Sam, what do you think of this whole exchange?
I don't know enough about the story. I don't know why Adam Page is gone. From what I understand, I think Adam Page is kind of like their best fresh baby face, right? Like he's kind of the top level baby face there. He as a homegrown guy, I should say.
He could be and should be. But they're reinvesting in him right now, you could tell. But you're pretty spot on, I think, actually.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but God, I mean, like I said, I'm such a big fan of the Revival or FTR. Sorry, I don't know if we have to beep that out.
No.
But, and then Kenny Omega and Adam Page do what they do. It's going to be a killer match. So
it's going to be so good. So good.
Yeah, I like FTR. I've always said they should be coming out in Ribera jackets and fanny packs. That's kind of the look that they would fit best with. Backstage, Alex Marvez with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho hyping up the Mimosa Mayhem match. It's going to be this Saturday. This is the rubber match. He and Cassidy have faced it off twice before. They are they each have a victory. So that's coming this Saturday. Of course, Jericho hyping up what's next, which is him versus Joey Janela. So we go to that. This basically just a squash match of for the most part of Jericho being being in charge of things. But then Joey Janela actually ends up getting. I don't know. Why did we have? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrestling Inc. wrote this wrong. Anyways, Jericho ends up getting knocking with the code breaker Janela out. Janela then put in the walls of Jericho. Doesn't even tap. He just slightly motions to the ref that he's done. And then after the match is where we see Jericho staring down and bad talking Orange Cassidy, who is sitting ringside. And ultimately, Cassidy ends up coming in the ring after they've bloodied up Joey Janela. Cassidy and Jericho swinging back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, Orange Cassidy pulls out a little bit of the bubbly out of his book bag, dumps it on the ground, thumbs down. And that is your big sell for he and Jericho in the Mimosa Mayhem. Matt Morgan, what do you think about Mimosa Mayhem?
I don't know. I don't care about. I mean, I don't know. In a car, I'm driving down 95, and there's a car. I-95, and there's a car crash in the right hand shoulder. I'll look, right? I'll rubberneck and watch. So for the interest of we've never seen this before, curiosity, I guess I'm looking forward to it. I don't know.
Yeah, Sam. I mean, again, you have a new, fresh perspective on Orange Cassidy, who's new and fresh, and then obviously you're very familiar with Jericho, as we talked about earlier. What are you excited for this? Does this get you going?
It'll be, again, it's Chris Jericho. I mean, he's not going to do anything that isn't pure gold. So clearly, I think it's going to be something fun to watch. I think a lot of it, I don't know what kind of power he has at AEW, but I can assume he probably gets to call some of his shots.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's going to be something that, he wanted to do it for a reason, and a guy like that with his track record, his experience, and his talent clearly is going to come off well. Yeah, so it's going to be cool. I think, just the promo beforehand, before that match, I think Jericho is kind of an example of what we said earlier about what's old is new again. In the 80s, that's kind of, or 70s, 60s, heels were, kind of like he is now. They would lie to your face with a smile on it, and they would kind of, they really believed what they were telling you. Jericho's so good at pulling that off and just being the best shyster in the business and just, winding people up. You love him so much, but while you're watching him, oh God, I just want to see him get his ass kicked. He's a master, and I think it'll be fun. Something different for sure.
Well, and you mentioned that promo again, and yeah, in that promo, he kind of does what, he kind of talks about what you were saying, Sam, that if he's calling the shots, which I'm sure he is, which is he talks about how Orange Cassidy's a main eventer. Yeah. Now we've seen the mean streak come out of Orange Cassidy, and Jericho, putting all the credit on himself, but he is right.
Sure.
Orange Cassidy went from being this comedy guy who was 1/3 of the trio of best friends. So now he's got his own music. He's in semi-main or main event programs with Chris Jericho. So I thought that was a neat promo to do that, to put him over while putting him down.
All I'm saying is a mimosa match can't be any worse than a Punjabi prison match. So,
we got a super chat here, $9.99. Catching up on the podcast. Responsible for friend's death as a kid in a car accident. 42 and scared to drive. Everyone's got a history. Storyline is still dumb though. Thanks so much for entertaining us. Well, thank you for the super chat. Sorry to hear of
that sucks.
Yeah,
I feel bad now. Can I go?
What did I miss? Did I miss something on? I didn't see that.
Yeah, just all the wind got sucked out of the sails.
He was. I guess when we said earlier about like if you see a car accident and like what would you watch, and that brought on that.
Oh, it's about traffic and people that rubberneck because it's something that they shouldn't probably be watching, but do it anyway because they're nosy.
Yeah. I feel sad.
Joe Y, $2. Just me or are most AEW themes indistinguishable? I mean, I will say it's I mean, obviously it costs a lot of money to get big name artists that can play down some sound that you can then have the rights to, you being the wrestling company. But I will agree that there's a couple that I can tell as soon as they hit, I know who it is. Obviously Jericho's the biggest one, but yeah, I mean, I will say that there's a lot more generic tracks that I haven't been able to yet associate with who's who.
WCW is good for that, because they had so much money, a whole department on creating knockoffs of actual songs.
It was Jimmy Hart. Yeah. It was Jimmy Hart. I think it was Jimmy Hart, wasn't it?
He was at some point, but he's right. But what Sam's talking about is he's right. Do you remember like DDP had like
the Nirvana,
Smells Like Teen Spirit. Jericho's first one was I think Even Flow by Pearl Jam. It was like a knock of that.
Yeah, it wasn't bad though. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it gave you that same feeling and ambience without actually having to pay out on that. So I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to music now, but I guess some people, I think now wrestling is so reliant on badass entrances and just, the perception of being cool. I think to a lot of average viewers, that is important. So maybe that's the thing to some other listeners.
All right, so moving on here, we got this turned into just the Wild West. So I'll try to recap this as efficient as I can.
Yeah.
Brian Cage, Taz, Ricky Starks, they head out to the ring. Taz talking trash on the mic. That quickly then brings out Archer and Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts returning the favor on the mic. Then after that, who else came next? We get Tully Blanchard. He's out there with Sean Spears, not saying anything. We got the Lucha Brothers. We are Darby Allin. All of a sudden, it's just mayhem. It then turned into like just a. I mean, they're promoting the battle royal that's going to be at All Out. It's almost like they gave us like a mock battle royal. I guess I'm not sure.
I had one major problem with this.
Go ahead.
And this is, I don't know just why I feel this way. And when we were in WWE, you had to be, even at FCW when I was there, I was never on the main roster or anything, but you had to be in your gear if you were doing anything. You had to go out in wrestling gear. Yep. This promo tonight, there were so many characters in there in street clothes that they all just looked like normal people.
Yes, they did.
There was 5 or 6 guys, Brian Cage being one of them, Penta obviously, Phoenix, certain ones stood out like a sore thumb because they had their masks or their body or whatever. But I mean, literally to look at that television screen, I didn't know who was who, what they came from, what they were doing, anything about their story because they weren't in wrestling gear. So from my personal perspective, I think, a situation like that might call for some wrestling gear.
Yep. They all look the same.
That's an interesting take. I got distracted a little bit by the in this whole sequence to start of it. They're trying to sell Lance Archer, who is a big man. They're trying to sell Brian Cage, who is a big man. But then I got Jake Roberts standing side by side of them. Then I got Billy Gunn running to the ring, and they are just as tall, if not taller. And I went, that's, and they're not trying to sell Jake Roberts, who's legit 6'4", 6'5". Billy Gunn is legit 6'5". They're not trying to sell them as big man. They're trying to sell Cage and Archer, and then I'm like, don't let them stand next to each other.
I say that all.
Jake and Billy are both 6'5" and a half, 6'6". Swear to God.
Those are the two examples I always use because I'm 6'4", and at independent wrestling shows, fans and wrestlers alike say, Sam, you're a good big guy. You move well for a big guy. And I don't see myself as a big guy.
You're doing 450s.
Well, I see Billy Gunn. I see Jake Roberts. I see Tito Santana. Rick Martel. These guys are easily my size, if not bigger.
Yeah.
They didn't wrestle like big guys. Now, I think just because there's less to select from, a big guy on the independents might be 6'1" and, have a body. Yep. Whereas, a decade prior or 2 decades prior, a big guy had to be about 6'6" or above.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. I mean, another one is when Dustin Rhodes and then when he became Goldust in WWF, he's a 6'6", 6'7".
He's very deceivingly tall. Yeah,
they would put Goldust up against the Undertaker. The Undertaker, of course, is always marketed as a big man, but when they're side by side, they're not. There's not much difference.
Good call. Yeah.
So maybe I'm being. I mean, I've always been of the mindset of I like the bigger guys. I like the guys that make heads turn in the airport. And I like Lance Archer. I like Brian Cage. I just didn't like that they're putting these other people who aren't marketed as big guys next to them.
Yes. No, you're right.
I did gloss over, or I missed it rather. They did show a video package between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara, the violence that's been between them and their match this Saturday. If Matt loses, it's a broken rules match, and if Matt loses, he leaves AEW. So that was the build for that. We also get a Dark Order vignette hyping Brody Lee. We'll see them in an 8-man tag this Saturday up against everybody avenging Cody's loss and injury. Next up, finally, we are about, at this point, almost 90 minutes into the show, and we get our first singles one-on-one match. It's been all Wild West stables and tag matches. We get the NWA Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, up against Serena Deeb. So this is Serena Deeb's AEW debut. Of course, Serena has an extensive history in WWE as a performer, as a trainer. So pretty cool to see her out there. This one all meant to be a win for Thunder Rosa, who's going to be going up against the AEW Women's Champion this Saturday. Matt, what'd you like of it? Did you like this, and what about it?
I did, and that's a huge loss to WWE to not have Serena Deeb there as a trainer anymore. That's a huge loss.
Yeah, I think she was a victim of the pandemic releases. I think,
but regardless, she can still go. She had a great day, a great match tonight. And the pay-per-view, I'm actually looking forward to that match. I love Thunder Rosa.
Matt, I know you and I were talking a little bit before the show started. You were a big fan of this.
I'm Sam. Matt's my brother.
Oh, then I.
But anyway,
I'm looking at Matt, and then I'm talking to you.
This was my favorite match of the show. I loved everything about this. To me, and my personal take, this is right about this is the vein of professional wrestling that I prefer most. This is just everything you need: the competitiveness, the realism, just everything about it was perfect. Again, they didn't do as many of the amazing acts of agility, but I think they just, they fought and it was real. And, the people, I think the people can get behind something like that. I like it. I don't think it needs to always have the coolest moves. I think it needs to be, stuff that can really rip your head off. So loved it. Loved Thunder Rosa. Serena Deeb looked great. I love the fact that Serena Deeb wears wrestling boots. I think a lot of wrestlers wear kick pads. I noticed that immediately. Like, it's so cool when girls wear wrestling boots because the kick pads are so easy and normal now that I noticed it when she has them. I thought it was cool. I thought the match was definitely my favorite of the night.
Good call on the boots. We get Moxley, his promo, and he says with MJF, it comes down to willing to be willing to kill or be killed. That's what it's going to come down to for MJF. He's going to have to make a decision Saturday in his match. Then we get Tony Schiavone talking to Big Swole. Big Swole talking to Schiavone. Of course, she's had a long-standing problem here with Britt Baker. Britt, of course, has been out injured all through the summer. But this Saturday will be Britt's in-ring return, and a pizza gets delivered by Reba, and that, of course, is distracting for Britt to come in and nail Big Swole in the back with a crutch, and then begins to lock on her submission, Britt's submission hold, while she's rubbing pepperoni pizza in Big Swole's face.
As a waste of pizza, man. Waste of pizza.
This was good though. This was decent heat.
It was.
It's just hard for me because I've always I used to be real fat, and now that I diet and exercise, I don't eat as much pizza as I like. And to see it just dropped on the floor, I mean, it broke my heart.
James Potts, $2 super chat. He says Rusev or Rowan as the Joker card in the Battle Royal. So asking if there's going to be a surprise, there's going to be and in the Battle Royal Saturday, which it would be either of those two former WWE talents.
I'm going to go with Mantar.
I don't think it'll be either. I hope so for their careers. It is, but I just don't think so.
I don't think Rowan. If nothing else, if anything, I think there's so much association with Rowan and obviously Brody Lee because they were together so long. But Rusev's one. I think Rusev's in such phenomenal shape. I think Rusev bluntly saying on his streaming channel recently, "I'm never wrestling again. I'll be your favorite content provider." I think that's that's an obvious So I don't know. I think Rusev. I think he's in tremendous shape, and I think that he would be somebody I'd like to see get the opportunity at AEW.
I can see Rusev going to New Japan. That's I think he'd do well there.
He would.
Yeah.
All right, main event time. Comedy match at its finest to start, as it's Moxley up against MJF's lawyer. What is it? Silver Balls, Matt? Mark Sterling.
Yes.
Okay. So this very Lawler Kaufman like everything from what Sterling's wearing. He's got he's trying to he walks out the one tunnel with Wardlow pushing him, then he tries to go to the other tunnel. Wardlow cuts him off, shoving him in the ring. He's got like a bodysuit of padding on in red, white, and blue. Moxley offering the free hits, everything. There's a lot of comedy. It was what it was. That some people enjoy it more than they want, more than others. Finally, though, of course, this ends up just being Moxley just destroying Sterling around the building here. Obviously, he gets a victory, as he should. Then after the match, we get Wardlow destroying Moxley with a spinning F10, and then MJF comes out and begins to just assault Ambrose Moxley, and then eventually ends up putting the ring on, nailing Moxley. Moxley starts bleeding, and we go off the air with just a Crimson Mass Moxley, MJF biting into the blood. So a great visual going off with MJF with hands up, blood in the mouth. I mean, one of the most violent looks we've seen of MJF here. So Matt, this is the big match.
It was, but for quite a while, I've been thinking MJF should be getting his steam back on this because he's going to be losing at the pay-per-view. He's not winning the title. I hope he does. I just don't think he is. So Moxley's been on top of him this entire story. Essentially, he has. I know he's a chicken shit heel, and I know it makes sense to have his heater go out there and be the one to, do all the blocking and tackling for him, right? Before he's finally like a chicken shit able to get in there and deliver a knockout blow. I get that. Normally, I'd be 100% on board with that psychology. But because he's not gotten any type of offense in on him yet, Roddy Piper was at times, you know what I mean, would be a chicken shit heel every once in a while with Hogan, but when it was time to get his heat on Hogan, he would get his heat on him. You got to make him look tough every once in a while, not all the time, because he's a chicken shit heel, like I said. But going into a pay-per-view, we need to be able to believe he has a chance of winning too. And I think when Moxley's been on top of him this entire storyline, I mean, he's kicked his ass every which way. And then the next week we see him in crutches with a neck brace on it, you know. I don't know.
I think what would have, I get what you're saying, and I think what would have, what might help, and I'm surprised they didn't make as big a deal about this. They mentioned it once when Moxley was coming to the ring, and they showed his graphic with his record. Both Moxley and MJF, they're the only two that are undefeated. They've never lost.
Yeah.
Moxley's like 15-0 or something, and I don't know what MJF is, but they, like, I would think make that a bigger thing building into this.
Good point.
Because I think that will help give MJF the credibility of, yeah, maybe in this program he hasn't been much on the offensive, but the dude has never lost in AEW. So that would give me credibility when you tell me that. But they kind of I don't want to say downplayed. I just don't think they've mentioned it as much as I would. And that's a hard thing to come by. In today's wrestling booking, to have two guys go for the world title who have never lost in your promotion, that's like unheard of in 2020.
And a promotion that's still in the record every single week and every single show. Yeah, it's impossible, and it's set up for it. You're right. Good call.
And Sam, we'll get to you here. Justin Lopez kind of jumping in with some of what we were saying here. I really want MJF to take this on Saturday, but with all the odds pitted versus Mox, I see him retaining. Sam, what do you think? I thought as soon as they made this match, as soon as we knew that this is where they're going, that MJF would be the challenger at All Out for Moxley, I thought this is MJF's to take. Now I have my doubts too, but I think the only way you really have MJF lose is maybe by trying to have Wardlow help him. They have the misfire, and now we start to have the Wardlow MJF at odds situation.
See, I kind of just think differently than everybody because I don't think anything needs to be rushed. I think everything's too rushed. Everything happens way quicker than it needs to happen. I think you can get away with just having a good match, have like a little schmoz finish where maybe Wardlow does cost it for MJF, but you can still just go right back to normal afterwards. Business can resume as usual. MJF's not losing heat because he just he lost on a schmoz. And now he's just back of the line. He's still going to raise hell and cut the best promos and just, get over. I don't think he necessarily needs to switch focus. He should still, I think every wrestler should still want to be the champion. I think now everybody has to have a story going into the next show. I think the natural story of pro wrestling is everybody wants to be champion. So
should be.
I think it's something that I don't know where it's going to go. I haven't watched enough of the product. I just know that MJF's very talented and he's making his mark. People, like it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think either way, whether he looks strong or not, whatever finish they do, he's still going to be, up on the horse after this one's all said and done.
Steezy Preezy, $4.99 super chat. At times tonight was a mess, but I can say I'm always entertained with AEW. Thunder Rosa is what AEW women's division needs, and hope MJF goes over.
I agree with the last sentence. Yep.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what this relationship with Thunder Rosa and NWA and such.
She could be the crown of that entire division. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Jackson Callen's a loyal follower of ours. We appreciate it. $4.99 super chat. What's up, guys? Hey, Sam, curious, working in Japan or Mexico, did you learn to speak their language or any funny stories or struggles being there? Go ahead, Sam.
Yo tenía 2 años viviendo en la Ciudad de México, por eso tenía muchas chicas, muchas cosas así, fiestando mucho. Yes, I speak Spanish.
No muchas chicas. No muchas chicas.
I speak Spanish fluently, and honestly, and this is not even trying to be a plug, but it's going to save us time. If you can listen to that Jericho podcast, you'll get all those answers. There's a lot of cool stories and a lot more about my life. So please check that out.
No lie. The first time I was ever in a locker room with you, Sam, and you were, I think you were still living in Mexico at the time, but you're here in the States doing a show with us, and you were speak texting, and you were speaking in Spanish, and you were speaking so fast and so fluent, and then a couple minutes later, you went to do a speak to text in English, and you were so slow. And I was like, explain this. And you're like, you were just because you're just came from Mexico, and you're like, I'm always in Spanish first mode.
I used to do that to my dad all the time. Anytime he'd call me, like I literally could be mid sentence and just switch from English to Spanish. So it's a good problem to have.
How were you? I was terrible. in Japan. I spent like 2.5 years there, and I was god awful. I tried for like my first month or two there, then I just gave up.
I was awful in Japanese. Yeah, I know a couple words, and hey, you normally in any country, no matter where it's at, you learn how to order a beer and you call a girl pretty, and that's basically all you need to know.
Dude, when you get on the wrestlers bus and you pass like the Japanese wrestlers, do you still like go us as you're walking past them?
I say Ohio gozaimasu.
Okay.
Yeah,
somebody like shortened it. It was kind of like they explained it to me like that's the what up.
That's the kayfabe handshake.
Sam, in your first few weeks and months in Mexico, did you find a real obstacle in trying to communicate for the matches, whether it be backstage or in the ring, or did you just
maybe
referees?
Yeah, there were some people that would help translate, but then like we had to train a lot. I had to learn a lot of their lingo at training. But honestly, what helped me learn Spanish was Tinder. I was meeting so many girls, and I was using Google Translate on Tinder. And next thing you know, I'm typing the same sentence 18 times a day. I figured I could learn that way. So I did pretty well. It was fun.
That's awesome. All right, so that was AEW Dynamite. Last night there was NXT. The biggest thing to talk about with NXT that was built around the Iron Man match, 4-way Iron Man match between Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole. It ended up, I would hope everybody's seen it by now. If not, here's your spoiler. It ended being a tie 2-2 between Finn and Adam Cole. So we are going to go to overtime next Tuesday because NXT is still on Tuesday next week, being preempted by NHL playoffs. Mm-hmm. I'll just ask both you guys real quick. You invest yourself in an hour match, wanting to get a new champion, titles vacated. Are you okay with that finish to extend and hook people to the following week?
Yes, because it's going to be Finn versus, Adam. Mm-hmm. But I don't see Finn winning the their championship.
Sam?
I think, I guess, given the circumstances, the fact that Kevin Cross vacated the belt, maybe, you can sympathize for them and give it to them and let them stretch that out as long as they can. However, I don't know, because it blew my mind a few weeks ago. I just learned that sometimes people like 4-ways better than singles matches. I was under the impression that people still want like a main event singles straight up match.
I do.
But I thought that's what was happening. That's still like the coup de grace is one-on-one, mano-a-mano. But a lot of times now where everything is so big, or, bigger is better, they like the 6-ways, they like the TLCs, they like the elimination chambers. Some people might think it doesn't get better than a 4-way match. So again, I think that's just up to the viewer. But
for false finishes, yes, the 4-ways are fucking dope, especially with athletic guys like these 4 that we had this past Tuesday. But yeah, I want to see that singles main event match to see which of these two guys is better. Yeah,
that's kind of how I felt. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna get that next week, and I think obviously if this was a one-off of being the only Tuesday that they were, on a different night, we probably would have got finale. But I think because they need to hook people to to Tuesday again, I think that was their way to do that.
Hey, Justin, I thought Raj said like right when it happened that Killer Cross was going to be able to still wrestle somehow, or still stay on the show and still be able to still be champion or something like that. What happened?
I don't know. Yeah, the Triple H did do a call after the takeover and was very kind of coy about the injury. But to be fair, I don't think they even had the MRIs done at that point yet. No. So, but yeah, I guess he's got a separated shoulder. I don't know how long that takes to heal, but I guess it's long enough to where
you could tell us. Even though Scarlett is a great actress and does a great job of adding so much sizzle to the steak of his act, if you will. Mm-hmm. She, you could tell, she was like, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening." To you know what I mean? You could tell she felt his pain. This guy worked so hard to get there, and now he gets freaking hurt. Yeah, he'll get it back though.
He will. Matt, I don't think you and I got to talk about this, but there were some people wondering after he had to vacate it. And, they put the hourglass next to the title. He was he's been such a hot commodity in the short time he's there. This might be the last time you see him in NXT. When he comes back, maybe it's Raw or SmackDown. Huh. I would prefer him go back to NXT, but you never know.
Could be right.
So we'll see with that. I'll tell you what, but a testament to how tough he was. I mean, I watched the match back again. I couldn't tell where in the match against Keith Lee he got hurt. And I talked to people who were there at the taping of that match in person, and they said we couldn't see when he got hurt. So that's how tough Cross is that he was able to finish that match with, was still performing at a level that people felt he was healthy. But nonetheless, this Iron Man match did do well for NXT. They drew 849,000 viewers, and that's up 3% from where they were the week before. So again, that's 2 weeks in a row of them being unopposed. They've seen a huge, a significant boost. A significant boost in their viewership. Real quick, and then I'm gonna translate I'll go into another story about NXT. Undisputed Era turns on Cole form Balor Club. So Joe Y $2 saying Undisputed Era turns into Balor Club.
So Joe Y, I would like that for the record.
Interesting booking. So NXT doing better unopposed, which makes logical sense. That was their 8th best viewership, and so now it's actually brought about the conversation. WrestleVotes, the Twitter account, which WrestleVotes has been 99 for 100 on the things that when they put something out, it has been good. And they're talking about WWE officials are having discussions, not necessarily imminent decision, but about moving NXT to a different night and considering Tuesday night to be that new home.
Do it.
So I mean, if USA is looking at seeing the significant jump by NXT when there is no opposition on a Tuesday night,
I want wrestling to do great. I think every wrestler does, and I think this does that by having NXT be on their own night, AEW be on their own night. Those are my 2 favorite shows. I hate having to freaking watch both at the same time.
Can we still just do one podcast though?
Oh, Raj is gonna love you.
So there you go. So NXT, so everybody's got momentum. AEW is doing well going into their what I think is their biggest pay-per-view of the year. NXT is doing an increased viewership, being unopposed. They'll be on again next Tuesday. So all is flying high there for those 2 brands. Final thoughts, Matt? Anything else you want to say?
Me? No, I thought this was another great night of AEW, though. I enjoyed the show, as always. I'm yet to not.
Sam?
I'm still just having fun taking it all in. This is the most current wrestling I've watched in years, so it's nice to just see what all the hype is about. Everybody's kicking ass, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Sam, when I'm trying to think, would I be in Italy, England, and even Japan? They would show, because there's nothing. Sometimes there ain't crap all to do when you're over there, and you're in your hotel room just killing time in between lifting or getting on a bus somewhere, right? And on the TVs they would show like WWE from like not a year, but like 6 to 4 months previous or something like that. I try to follow it. It was like back when Bobby Lashley was like the ECW champion. I remember. Yeah, and they were like 2 or 3 months behind the time. But you didn't do any of that when you were over there. It was just. No.
In Mexico, WWE's on every day, probably for 4 hours on so many channels. Like if you have cable, WWE's on. I would go to the best little restaurants in the middle of nowhere, and you just have WWE on TV. So it's pretty unique. But I just I don't know, man. I'm literally watching Nick Bockwinkel against Junkyard Dog right now back here. So that's kind of what I do. I guess I'm just more of a nerd than anybody and too sentimental to watch new stuff.
Dude, but that's all I watch on my YouTube and network is that. I swear, it's all I watch.
But like I said, it's very beneficial now because I feel like right now I'm in the middle of my stride, my time, and all this old stuff I watch is new again, so it works perfectly.
That's going to become a theme every Wednesday. Last week, you were watching in the background CMLL from 1992. So each week, we'll start to ask you what's on Sam's TV in the background.
Well, whenever we need, we can do watch-alongs with some podcasts to some of these matches. We can get that channel going.
There you go.
Yeah,
watch some of this wild stuff. But
Sam, put yourself over. What's your next booking? Where are you at next?
I'm in Pittsburgh. Super Indie Tournament for IWC on September 12th. Chicago, September 19th. Salt Lake City, Utah, October 3rd, Milton, West Virginia, October 10th, Lubbock, Texas, November 26th. I'm actually doing all right now. It seems like wrestling's coming back slow, but
those are solid bookings, man. Good bookings.
I'm doing all right, man. It's I like to think it's because I signed on to the Wrestling Inc. team, and now everybody all over the world knows me. So, thanks, Raj. Cheers, bro. But, that's pretty cool. Hey, anybody out there, please come check me out. And I'm looking forward to meeting anybody.
So there you go. So if you're in any of those towns, get out and see Sam Adonis.
Or you could just check me out on Instagram, Real Sam Adonis. That works. That's probably easier.
It's our last. This is a super chat coming here. This, I guess, definitely for Matt. You guys listen to Big Sean, dude. Is Dope AF, his album Detroit 2 coming out tomorrow.
I have not been listening to Big John. Sorry.
I'll inbox me and I will send you my PO box and you can send me a copy of that. Okay.
There you go. All right, guys, it's been fun. We are in under an hour, not bad, but we got to take a hard look at AEW Dynamite on their Go Home show, and we got to look at the big things going on for NXT. Next up will be tomorrow on the Wrestling Inc. Daily, myself and Nick Hausman. Then Friday night, we will have the Post SmackDown podcast. And then there will be All Out podcast, and then there'll be Raw, and all the shows are covered here live on Wrestling Inc. So make sure you are subscribed, tell a friend, share the love. We appreciate it. Thanks to all the super chats. Thanks to all you guys staying up tonight with us all around the world, wherever you're watching. Matt, thank you. Sam, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do it again. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Good job, you guys. Thank you.